right, welcome back to the show, everybody. It's a mystery that a lot of us know all too well. So you got a great night's sleep, but for some reason, you're still yawning throughout the entire day and then chugging back that coffee just to keep you going.
And if you ever wonder why you feel so tired, you might want to take some notes from our next guest. She's a sleep specialist and the director of the Sleep and Depression Laboratory at Ryerson University. Please welcome back to the show, Colleen Carney.
Colleen, it's good to see you. I want to get this straight, though, because we use the word sleep or tired and fatigued interchangeably. Are they all the same thing?
You know, sleepy for us means something a little bit different. Sleepy for us is really important because sleepy means that you're going to fall asleep very, very quickly, which means even right now during the day. So if you're sleepy, that's something that's different because it means that it could be potentially dangerous because you could nod off. A lot of us are probably feeling sleepy today because of daylight savings time. We shouldn't feel sleepy during the day. We shouldn't be able to fall asleep quickly during the day. Okay. That's only something we should feel at night, and even then, we shouldn't fall asleep like right away as soon as our head hits the pillow.
Well, let's talk more about that. How long should it take us to fall asleep once our head hits the pillow? Is there a specific time?
I mean, generally speaking, it should take you somewhere between 10 and 30 minutes, which is surprising to some people.
Wait, that's healthy?
Yes, yes. If you take less than 10 minutes every single night,
Yeah. I'm a dog. I fall asleep in 30 seconds.
Okay, well, you probably are a little sleep deprived. You probably could spend a little bit more time in bed than you think.
True. Yeah. I'll tell the world that.
Like
True.
Yeah, and it could also be something else. We have to make sure that, I mean, in your case, somebody's identifying that you probably don't spend a lot of time in bed. But if you do spend an adequate amount of time in bed and your head hits the pillow and you're dead asleep every single time, it's worth talking to your doctor about it because actually it can be a sign of another sleep disorder.
And I know you're going to give us, tips about fatigue, but you say often that it's not just cognitive; it's also emotional. Why we're tired or sleepy. So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's cognitive, it's emotional, it's physical. There's many different elements to fatigue, and I think that's why it's important to try and tease some of these words apart. Cognitive in the sense that we do this kind of split-second thing out of our awareness where when we have a task in front of us, we usually kind of scan to see whether or not we have enough resources to do it. And then we think about how much resources that task needs. And that's when we usually feel tired. So for example, if I'm marking a stack of papers and I feel like, I've got 10 more to go, I kind of do a little check to see, do I have enough resources to do these 10? And when I don't feel like I do, I'm gonna feel really tired. And it's really interesting, but if somebody came to me and handed me a check for $5,000 and said, if you get through those papers, suddenly my appraisal of my resources changes. So it's interesting, fatigue is one of those funny things that has many different elements.
Greed motivates. No, it's greed.
It's greed, but also emotions. We know that stress, anxiety, boredom, these all influence fatigue greatly.
So when someone's tired, what the automatic inclination might be is to slow down a bit and just kind of take your foot off the gas pedal. But you're saying that maybe that approach, like underworking and gearing down is not the best, right?
It's not always the best.
Yeah.
So it's a balancing system that actually operates, there's always sort of trying to create a balance between sort of underdoing it and overdoing it. Everyone always says, oh, take it easy, or you'll overdo it, but nobody ever says, take it easy, or underdo it. And that is actually the case. So for example, if I said, tomorrow, take the whole day off, spend the entire day on the couch, it sounds amazing, but at the end of the day, are you gonna feel more rested and invigorated, or are you gonna feel sluggish? And most people can identify, oh, I'd feel sluggish. And so there is a balance there between under and overdoing it.
Mm-hmm. People spend so much of their day at work, so you can imagine that there will be a point or points in your day that you are hitting that sort of tired wall. And so you say that there's an acronym, which I love a good acronym, that highlights the common sources of fatigue. So give us this acronym and then how we can use this.
Yeah, this came about with my work with teens, because teens have both fatigue, they also have sleepiness. But so some of the things that I ask them to focus on, it's be at the helm of your energy. So H is for hydration. And certainly with my teens, they forget to drink water. Okay, so they're always just kind of going. And fatigue actually happens when you're dehydrated. So that's one thing to keep an eye on.
Interesting.
E is for eating. because some of them forget to eat. They just keep plugging away, or they'll eat a bunch of sugary snacks, and then their blood sugar will spike and then crash, which will also be associated with fatigue. And then L is about lighting. And this is less about teens and more about us in our working world. Sometimes in our offices and cubicles and whatever, we don't get enough light. We have this sort of Zen lighting in our
Or fluorescent
offices.
lighting.
Yeah, or the opposite, where it's like this really uncomfortable lighting and people are like turning off that lighting because they find it uncomfortable for their eyes. And light is actually activating. You hear about blue light. Blue light is actually very good for this. So going outside on a day like today would be very helpful to get a quick little burst for your fatigue. HEL and M.
M, okay, let's guess.
Can we guess?
Let's guess. Okay, M, massage.
Massage, okay.
I'll say motivation.
I say meditate.
Okay.
I say music.
Music, okay. I love all those. Those are probably good strategies for
We're all
fatigue.
wrong.
Yeah, no, those are good. Those are good, but I'm going to focus on movement.
Okay.
If we
Okay.
were all to stand
Yeah.
up right now and stretch, think about how that would help energize. And that's what happens. People plug away, plug away, plug away, and they're just like so tired. And even standing up and stretching, getting oxygen moving, that's actually going to be helpful. I love that.
Is there a magic number, Colleen, as to how many breaks we should take during the day, like just to keep our energy levels up?
I think, that's a tricky one. I think it really depends on what the task is. And so paying attention to your body in some way to take a break, and sometimes you can take a break by actually just switching tasks. So you don't even have to stop working necessarily. You could switch to a different one if that's helpful. But at the same time, you don't want to completely just listen to your body every time you feel tired, because then we risk the underdoing it. So I think kind of trying a couple of different possible, I know that after lunch, for example, I'm going to feel a little sleepy. So maybe at that point, I'm going to get up and activate. But I think it really depends.
And speaking that, you mentioned lunch, and there's that post-lunch slump, right? Where you eat something, and maybe it's certain foods too, and then you don't even want to move. Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we're probably close to it right now. But that post-lunch dip is a thing. That's an actual thing. It's actually due to our body clock. So it's not actually tied to eating at all. You could eat things to exacerbate it, but it's actually a dip in our body temperature that corresponds with a dip in alertness and often emotion as well.
And it happens at the same time
It happens
every
at the
day?
same time every
Wow.
day for everyone. If you're a night owl and an early bird, it's going to be shifted one way or another, but it's around the 1 o'clock mark. And some people are going to need a strategy for that. Some people barely even notice it. Other people, it hits them like a wall. And so making a plan for that breaking, getting some light exposure, using HELM, those are things that probably would be helpful.
So you've detailed things that are helpful, but what are some common mistakes that people make in order to pep themselves up?
I think one of them is that ignoring it completely. So this is the overdoing it. So you're working, you notice that your eyes are burning. That's like a sign that you really need to take a break. And then you like rub your eyes and stare harder at the screen and try and plow through it. And people come to me and they're frustrated because they feel like they can't be productive at work, but they're just trying to slug their way through it instead of taking a break so that you would be more productive. So I think that's a big one. Also, always blaming sleep. Sleep and sleepiness go hand in hand, right? So the falling asleep really quickly or feeling like you can fall asleep during the day. But fatigue and sleep don't necessarily go hand in hand. Anxiety, stress, boredom, they're even more tied to sleep. But if you think, oh, I must have had a bad sleep, then you're going to spend the rest of the day almost in a self-fulfilling prophecy thinking, oh, well, I'm never going to feel good because I had a bad night's sleep. When it's variable about how you're going to feel after a bad night's sleep.
So being tired occasionally is one thing, but at what point does it become a concern?
Well, I think that's an individual difference there. If this is a big change for you and you're noticing fatigue, it's really important that you see your doctor and get that physical done, because sometimes it's as easy as checking your thyroid, checking to see if your iron levels, B12 levels, checking to see if there's an illness, an underlying illness. So if you suddenly notice an increase in your fatigue and you're trying some of these management skills and you still don't feel good, it's really important that you talk to your doctor about it.
Colleen, thank you so much for being here today, helping us understand our fatigue and tiredness. For a recap of this information, head to our website after the show.